Hi, and welcome to episode 114 of the Heartland Knits podcast. My name is Vicki, but you can find me as Heartland Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. And today is Friday, July 31st, 2015. There's a reason why I'm recording on Friday when I usually record on Sunday, but I'm going to go into that a little bit later. First, I'm going to show you what's been on my needles this week. So I have a new project on the needles, and it's a mitten. I've been sort of lax in joining everybody in the mitten along. If we are having the mitten along in the Ravelry group, which is Friends of Heartland Knits. So summer is the perfect time to knit mittens. You don't need them, so it's not like your hands are going to be cold if you don't finish it that night. But it's a nice small project, not a lot of wool kind of laying on your lap. So I started a new mitten. It's one that's been in my queue for quite some time. I'll show you the picture of it. But then one of my friends from Minicamp, Natasha, actually used this design for her camp contest entry. And I saw it and thought, I have to knit those right away. And so these are called sheep mittens, and the designer is by Jorad Lindvik. But they are just adorable little stranded mittens. And so I cast on for these yesterday, I think, and I've gotten this far. I've just got some legs and part of the body. And the yarn that I'm using is some hand spun. I don't know if you remember, kind of at the beginning of the summer, I had 3 batches of hand spun that I had spun years ago. They're Corrie Angora. The brown is actually Corriedale mohair, and they were all spun from bats prepared by the shepherd of Whitefish Bay Farm. They have wonderful Corriedale sheep. And so I made the green and white Rowan mittens from the little Solveig Larsen little knitted mitten book. And I had another batch from another year with the brown and white, but then adding in sort of the leftovers of the green, it just seemed like the perfect project for this batch of hand spun. I am really enjoying knitting with the hand spun. Since the brown has a little bit of mohair, it kind of has a little bit more luster and shine to it than the white and the green, which have the Angora blend. It's only 10% Angora, but it still throws off a lot of loft. And I'm making a couple little changes to the mittens because, I have to. I need to have them so that the beginning of the round starts on the side of the hand. And I think until I saw Natasha's mittens, I didn't realize they were in my queue, and I thought, oh, they're cute little sheep mittens. But I didn't realize that there was a ram on one side of the hands and a U on the other side. But as they're written, I can, show you that picture, but she's got her hands up like this. And it's the same thing as those hummingbird flower mittens that I knit in the spring, so that they have like them shown like this. And so that the like head of, I think it's the head of the U is on the back of the hand on the right hand, and then the body, because how they're written is like the head is on one side and then the rest of the sheep is on the other side. So this will be the head of the ram, and then you can see, so there's his front 2 legs, and then here's his back 2 legs, and this like the start of his little tail there. So anyway, she's got her hands up like this so that you can see across them that together they make a whole sheep, even though you only see the head on the back of one hand together. So on this hand, the head of the other sheep goes on this hand and wraps around. So you get a whole sheep. But I don't usually walk around with my hands like this. I will have my hands like this so that, like, if I'm driving the car or if I'm looking down at them, I want to see a whole sheep when I hold my hands together like this. And as they're written, I would have to like go like this in order to see the whole sheep. If I open my hands out like this, then I could. So I decided I would rather have, them as I'm looking down, because I will probably be driving the car in them. So I am doing the ram's head on the back of my right hand, and then the U's head will be on the palm side of my left hand, so that when I want to see her, I will have to like switch over my hands. You could conceivably do kind of both heads on one hand and then both bodies on the other hand, but I thought that would be sort of boring to do, and it kind of defeats the purpose of like having the sheep around your hand. So I am switching that up, and then because how it's written, you can just like start. So I'm doing as it's written, the left hand I'm using for the right hand, and then I'm just changing the placement of where I'm going to put the thumb. So it's got like that kind of afterthought thumb, like thumb trick, sort of where you put the scrap yarn in. And that's what I'm doing for those. I have a couple things off the needles. And if you didn't see it, you're probably guessing. I did show this on Instagram, but I cast off my green handspun shawl. It's finished. It's not been blocked yet, but because I don't know, I just got lazy yesterday and then did get blocked. But this is it finished. The knitting part of it is finished. So you can see how big it turned out. And I love how the pattern turned out. I love how, and it'll be kind of how the variations in the yarn kind of showed up and kind of make kind of waving patterns, and that'll show up more once it's blocked. But this was a handspun yarn that I spun last year. It was Fiber by Lisa Sousa. It was alpaca and silk, and it's the color called Water Gardens. And the shawl pattern is called the Alberta Shawl, and this is by Annalise Mygard. I did extended it quite a bit. This it goes from this leaf pattern to this sort of old shale pattern, and then it has the original pattern just had 2 of this repeat of this lace pattern, and I ended up doing a full 5 on that. So it used quite a bit of yarn. I'm pretty sure that I must have counted the yardage wrong on this, because it just seems way more than 650 yards. But I like how it turned out. I did knit on this at camp for one day. I think for most of Friday I knit on it. I was actually hoping to finish it there, and I warned everybody, because a few people watch the podcast that are there, and I said, I don't know, if I'm casting this off and I'm making grumbling noises, somebody needs to take custody of it and take it away from me so I don't rip it out again. But I knew that I would really, it was finally had gotten to the point of the pattern that I envisioned for it. But it was a really fun pattern to knit. It has those sort of features of kind of the sampler, shawls where you change stitch patterns so it doesn't get like really boring. It's not like totally repetitive. But yet it has the look, like some of those kind of sampler shawls are you know, you do the stitch pattern, then you do some, you know, garter, and then you do another stitch pattern, and then, you know, so yeah, you can see like separate little sections where these blend into each other in a more kind of organic way. The only thing I would say is it's got this little middle section with this old shale kind of derivative, which is an old, you know, Shetland lace pattern. It's really common. And it's basically like one kind of pattern row, and then you can decide, you know, how many other kind of, you know, plain rows if you're going to put some garter in there or whatever. But it's really easy to chart. And that was the one stitch pattern that she had written out. Like she would show like a line of a chart for the pattern row, and then you'd have to go back and like read, like if you were supposed to do, you know, some stockinette or some garter or whatever. And I thought it would have just been simple to like chart that. So I don't really understand why she didn't do that, but you know, it wasn't like that it was wrong or anything. I just thought it's like one of the easiest things to chart. So I'm looking forward to blocking it out. It got really humid, and so I thought I'm just gonna let it because it's not gonna dry anyway. So it's finished though, and I'm really happy about that. And I finished another thing. So I worked on the shawl at camp on Friday, and then but in my heart I wanted to be doing a camp project. Usually when we come on Thursday night, once there's a dinner, and then we go in the classroom, and there's like a little folder with names and addresses of everybody, and anyway, usually in there there's a handout of a hat, and she usually prepares them for other sessions, and then like we all wanted to excuse me. And so this time there was no hat pattern. I was so disappointed. And Friday, maybe she brought it in Friday morning. She said, oh, you know, I don't know if they just didn't get like put in the folders. So she had a hat pattern. There is a new hat pattern, schoolhouse press pattern. And this was sort of like a scaled down version of like just with the chart of it. So you can actually buy the pattern to knit this hat. But this is my camp hat. And I love it so much. And it's using a brand new yarn. So I'm not going to put it on because I got my hair in a braid and it'll get all messed up. But I knit this on Saturday and Sunday during camp. And this is using this new yarn that they started carrying. It's a Swedish Gradient yarn. So this is what's left of mine. So mine started in the center. It was the green, and then it changed to this blue, and then the blue changed to the purple, and then the purple goes back to the green. And it is a Swedish yarn, and you can see it's like a kind of it's thicker than pencil roving, but it doesn't drift apart as much as unspun Icelandic. It's a little bit softer than unspun Icelandic. They say it's from local Swedish sheep. So I don't know what that means. But I really enjoyed using it. I stranded one strand of this with a double strand of the unspun Icelandic, and the gauge worked up perfectly. But I really enjoyed it. I have enough. I could knit a second hat. I kind of wish I'd gotten a second skein, and so I could do like matching mittens. But anyway, so I have this. This is like, so this is part of my show and tell, is like this new yarn, and they call it SGU for Swedish Gradient wool, wool for wool. And so yeah, so that was my camp project. So 2 finished projects. And then I have some finished spinning for you too. So Tour de Fleece ended last weekend. And through the month of July, I've been showing you that I was spinning and spindling some Sun Valley Fibers Superwash BFL in the Boundary Waters color. And I finished the spindling of it last Sunday, which was the end of the Tour de Fleece. And then when I came home, I don't know, Tuesday or something, I sat down and I plied it with what I had spun on the wheel. So this is my finished 4 ounces. It's 2 separate skeins. The first skein that I spun is the bottom one, and that ended up to be about, I think, 255 yards. And then the skein is what I just finished spindling, and that measured about like 200 yards. So there's quite a bit difference in yardage between them. I knew when I was spindling, I was like rushing to try to get it done, and you know, not being as sort of precise as I usually am when I'm just at home. But I still think it will make a really pretty pair of socks. They might just not be totally matching socks like I was hoping that they would be. This fiber was wonderful to spin. It spun like butter. It was really nice. And this was the colorway for the ZK a year ago. And it's pretty as yarn, but I think it's even prettier as fiber. I love how the barber pole, looks, and I think it'll be really pretty when it is knit up. So I guess I'll just quickly go through my other purchases at Knitting Camp, at the market, and from Schoolhouse Press. But I'll show you this is the bag that we got. Every year you get a tote bag, and this is like a really nice one. The color's turning out on the camera more teal, but it's actually a really pretty turquoise. It's the beautiful turquoise, and inside it's got a little zipper pocket. I really love this bag. You know, some years you love the bags, and some years you're like, it's all right. But this one I really, really love. So I bought the fiber from Sun Valley Fibers, and there were a lot of good vendors this year. But I kept telling myself that I had this like pile of yarn that I had like stacked up at my place in the classroom. But Knit Circus was there, so I got to see all their gradient yarns up close and personal. But I knew that they're going to be at Stitches next weekend, so we'll see if I can resist them again. But there were a lot of good ones. But the only other thing I bought at the market, where I bought this package of note cards there. And these are prints by Carrie Anderson. Carrie Anderson is the daughter of Carol Anderson, who is a longtime camper. Carol, you might not know her name, but you might know like her most famous patterns is the wonderful Wallaby. She publishes the little booklets, the Cottage Creations patterns, but I think the Wallaby is probably the most well-known. If you've never knit a Wallaby, like it's a little like hooded, like little hoodie, and they're like a wide range of sizes. So if you never knit one, find that pattern and make one, because it's really fun. And her patterns are written kind of conversational style. Like you'll be knitting, and they're little booklets, and you'll like turn the page and it'll say, "Now go take a walk," just out of nowhere. But anyway, this year, I don't know what it is. You know, there's the green shawl and stuff. It just seemed to be my summer of green, because everything that I would like pulled out of the Schoolhouse Press market area and placed in front of me seemed to be green. There were 2 wheels of unspun that I really loved together, but they ended up actually going back because they didn't fit with the theme. And I know that I can always get them. I wasn't going to sit down and start shopping with them right away. But the biggest one one that that I like totally fell for and kind of started this green thing going on was this yarn, which is another of their Swedish Gradients. And it is, all these greens. It's a little bit, it's richer looking. It's looking more olivey green on the screen when it's really, there's kind of a grass green and like a lighter limier green, and then more of like a darker pine green. But these are from that same mill as my big one, but these have a much smaller, these are actually thinner than the unspun Icelandic. These are quite thin. I think that it will knit up more like the lace weight Icelandic yarn. And so I got a number of wheels of this to do, I'm going to do a shawl, I think. Either a shawl or a pelerine, I'm not sure. But I thought like I wanted to do a big like Faroese shawl out of this. So I got a number of wheels of that. And then I guess the only other thing yarn-wise that I bought was I bought these two colors to knit some mittens with. And these are Ultra Alpaca. I just thought they were like so pretty. I could do a hat with them or a scarf or something, but I just thought they were so pretty that I needed them. And then I ended up picking up this roving, and I walked in. It was like, of course I picked the green one. But yeah, so it just, green kind of seemed to be the theme of things that I bought. And it seemed like I bought something else, but I'm not sure. I didn't see it around. But anyway, I was trying to like hold the line a little bit because Stitches Midwest is next weekend. And so I will be going, I'll be there on Friday and part of Saturday. I'm staying Friday night, so, Friday and part of Saturday. So if you're there and you see me, come and say hi, because I would love to meet you. The other, I just, I don't know that I could actually express in words how much knitting camp means to me, how much it meant to me, and the people that are there are totally inspiring. I mean, the knitting was inspiring. The show and tells were just out of this world. The knitting was inspiring. The people and their lives and what they have, come through, hardships and traumatic events, and are those ladies and men are like totally inspiring. And so for show and tell, I showed my two bohos, the wild apple and my egg, and then my twined mittens. That was, my show and tell was on Friday, and so kind of got that out of the way. Every day I wore my fluvogs so for show and tell day I wore my my floral kendras that I got for my birthday, which attracted a lot of attention because they're gorgeous shoes. And I feel like this year, for the first time, I just told several people that the first time I went to knitting camp, you don't have to do show and tell. Nobody's going to make you do it. If you just say, I pass, or I don't, want to, you don't have to. But I was so nervous the first year that I didn't sleep for 3 nights, because at that point they like scheduled when your show and tell happened, and mine was scheduled for Sunday. And so I didn't sleep Thursday, Friday, or Saturday nights because I was so nervous about it. But it was also something I didn't want to back out on. I was like a challenge to myself to make me do it. But I have gotten better. I like having it on the first day more. So this year, for the first time, we could sign up for a time. And so I signed up for Friday so I would get it out of the way even. But I feel like this was the first year that I kind of took my time and talked about it, and then you kind of the room is set up so that the Meg's table is at the front, and then the rest of everybody sits in a U, and there's like people on both sides of the table, but so that when you do your show and tell, you walk, kind of run the gauntlet of going down, and people are taking pictures and asking you questions and stuff. But I felt like this year was the first year that I felt like I would walk and like stand and let people take pictures, where like before I just wanted to like get it done, like go down and like walk down as fast as I could and walk back so like get it all done. And like there were always pictures that I would be like talking, or I would be like moving and stuff. And so this year I thought I'm just gonna like take my time, and so there's like a lot that could be improved on it, but it felt like I had made a stride in that part of camp. And then on Saturday, Thursday night, there's a dinner that everybody gets together, and Meg isn't there for the dinner. It was so strange. On Thursday, I got there like at 1:30 or 2, and luckily my room was ready. Some people's rooms weren't ready, but my room was ready, so I got to like take everything in and unload my car and stuff. And then usually what happens is people are kind of sitting out. There's a little kind of patio right outside the doors to where the conference center area is, and people kind of congregate out there and go out there and sit and knit. And so I got everything in my room, and so I was going to go head down there, and I turned the corner to like head that way, and there were people standing in there, and I said hi, and then all of a sudden Meg was standing there, which I've never seen her there on Thursday before, but I guess she was getting kind of her desk all like set up so that it would be for what she wanted to start out with on Friday. So it was great to see her straight off. And then, so I got to sit in and talk for like all afternoon. We sat and knit and talked outside. So that was really good. But then at the dinner on Friday, Cully, who's Meg's son, was there, and we had done the pledge coats. There were 24 from last year that signed the little thing that pledged they were going to knit the coat. So there were, some people that just hadn't, come back this year. I know there was one lady who knit the coat that was on the pledge that didn't come back, but she had posted pictures. I think she was the first one finished with it, actually. And then there were a couple coats in the works, like almost finished. One lady had hers almost finished, and another one had a broken arm that had like a lot of complications. So she had been in a cast for a long time. So, but she had just gotten that she could knit a little bit. She was knitting on the coat, which I don't know that would be my first thing that I would pick up and knit if I'd had a broken arm. But so that we ended up, there were 10 people on the pledge that had finished coats, which, that's pretty good. And then, so anyway, Cully asked for, did people actually knit them? And there were 10 of us that raised our hands, and he said like Saturday morning he was going to come, and he had, wanted to take video of everybody. And so Saturday morning we all, we're going to do the pledge coats, and we all kind of went out in the entryway and walked in kind of one by one and talked about the coats, and he was videoing the whole thing. And then we had a picture taken with everybody and their coats, and then he liked to do like separate little interviews with everybody about their coats. And it was interesting. Then there was one lady who was new to camp who just happened to make the coat, so she walked along. She wasn't actually part of the pledge, but she walked along, had a coat to show, and so it was interesting to see how everybody, the buttons everybody chose, and um, just the little differences because they were all from the same pattern. I had done that little belt in the back, that was different on mine, and I think there were only two um, color or people that had the same color coat. So then we all sat down and we were doing some more mini workshops on things. And I looked over and Meg's coat um, was sitting on like a little dress form. And I looked at the woman next to me who had also done a coat. I said, why wasn't Meg in that picture with all of us in our coats? I just think, I don't know. So then right before we broke, or for like just like a break and mid-morning break, um, we said, can we have a picture with Meg and all of us in our coats? And so, um, we went out in the entry and had that done. But when we had everybody like standing together to do our coats, it was like the paparazzi, um, of like everybody jumped up out of their chairs and were like standing there with their cameras and their phones or whatever and take you pictures. So it was a lot of fun. So I wore my black and white Vivs that day, but the show and tells were wonderful and inspiring, and my head is swirling with things that I want to make and for next year. And it just, I can't express. Oh, and then we, got in, there was a big project that had been going on for all the camps, that they were like making Meg this shawl, like recreating this shawl that Joyce Williams had. Joyce passed away 4 years ago, which I miss her like so much. But she had knit this shawl that, like, it was like a big wrap that had incorporated this tailspun yarn that one lady always brings to market day. She hand spins, and she tail spinning is where you like just get the end of like a lock of fiber. You just get that in the single, and then so that like it's yarn, but it has like big locks like hanging off of it. And apparently, and I knew she had made this shawl because I remember seeing it, but apparently Meg really loved that shawl. And so I don't know whose idea it was to kind of recreate that and give it to her. And so it started they must have cast on at Camp 1, and it was made out of charcoal unspun Icelandic. And everybody, all the campers that were there throughout all 4 sessions, knit on it. And then Saturday night, Amy knit in the tailspin yarn, and then we continued on with it. And to go along with it was a little notebook that everybody had written a little bit to Meg about camp and what it means to them and stuff, which was a hard thing to try to figure out what I wanted to say. And there was all this like people talking and laughing and commotion. It was, to kind of gather your thoughts together. But the shawl didn't quite get finished because the locks on this yarn were a good 5 inches long. And by that time, it was the bottom edge of the shawl. There had to be like 600 stitches at least. And so each row took a long time. So people knit on it all Saturday afternoon and all Saturday night, all Sunday afternoon, and night. And it didn't almost got done. It needed to be, reach the bottom of the locks, and there was still like an inch or so left to do. So, but Monday at the breakfast, Amy presented that to Meg. So that was like a wonderful thing that went on then too. So yeah, it's my favorite like knitting event. If I could only do one knitting event, like next year, hands down, it would be camp. Um, yeah, I would go to knitting camp over anything else. Yeah. It's that good. So just, the signups for it are always in January. There's 4 sessions, 1, 2, 2.75, and 3. I always tell people, if they've never been before, if they've never taken a class with Meg, that they should go to 1 or 2, just because you get more of Meg actually teaching there. And it's really, that is an experience that you shouldn't miss out on. I know there are people that, say, well, I'm a better knitter. I'm a really good knitter. I'm an advanced knitter, or whatever. It's not about that at all. How good that, the best knitters go to 3, or the best knitters probably go to 2.75, but it's not about that. It's that if you've never had that experience of having, like classes with Meg, that you should go to like 1 or 2, just because you get more of her like actually teaching. Where at the one that I go to, it's a lot of like sharing, like mini workshops that people like want to show something at. We had 3. We had a provisional cast on, which I knew how to do already, and like a cable kind of decrease, and can't think of what the third one was now. But anyway, it left my mind swirling with ideas, and that brings me to why I decided I wanted to record today, which is the end of July, and not wait till Sunday. I was going to record right away when I got home. I was all like happy and until I got, I don't know, about a half hour out of town, and I just started like, that sort of, it's over kind of sank in, and I got really tired, and I thought, if I sit down and record, it's going to look like I just had a horrible time because I was just tired. So I decided to wait, and then wanted to get it done today in July, because I decided that I was going to take a summer vacation and take the month of August off from podcasting. I'm going to be back. I promise. I just feel like I need like a little break where I don't have to think about, oh, what am I going to show on the podcast? Or I got to like make some progress. Like I got to like make some progress on that mitten so I can show it on the podcast. I just want some time to play, to play with my knitting, and yeah, I could show that, but most of the time, I always think of my podcast is like it's centered around the knitting. I know there's a lot of other ones that aren't so much centered around the knitting, and that's fine. But for me, that's when I set out to do the podcast, that's what I wanted to do. I know in the summer, I often throw in the garden stuff because that's a big part of my summer. There won't be any garden segments because when I was gone, we didn't get any rain, and we had really high temperatures, like in the 80s, and the garden just sort of dried up. it's not looking so good. So anyway, I just thought, instead of like trying to figure out other things to show you and such, that I'm just gonna like take the time off. Now, if I go to Stitches next weekend and then have all kinds of stuff I want to show you or tell you about, I reserve the right to actually record, even if I said I wasn't going to. So, there might be an episode that I just decide to throw up. I don't know. I reserve the right to change my mind. But I just wanted to put it out there so that if August there's like no recordings, you don't have to worry like what happened to her. Did she fall off the earth? Did she make it home from Stitches okay, or whatever? I wanted to let you all know. So anyway, I hope you all have a really great end of the summer. It feels like it finally is warm here and it feels like summer, and I just want to like sit and enjoy it and not have to, and just play a little bit. I'm going to go up to Door County and get cherries, and then they're going to be all have to, pit all of them before I can freeze them. And so there's, stuff like that. So anyway, I hope you all have a great end of the summer, and I will see you in September. So until then, from my heart to yours, happy knitting.